to everyone who's joined us and joining us. I'm Jenny Stanley, Managing Director and Founder of Appetite Creative. We're here today to talk about NFTs, the Metaverse, Web 3.0. What does it mean? This is our second follow-up to our first webinar. So thanks a lot for those of you who are joining us again. Fantastic to have you here. Just a few quick notes as we get started. This is a live event, which means you have got the opportunity to ask your questions to our fantastic panelists. So if you want to do so, you should be able to see the QA button at the bottom of your screen. Please do pop your questions in there and we will try to get to them through the webinar. The other thing to note as well, as one of the first questions we always get is this going to be recorded? Yes, it is going to be recorded. So you will be able to catch up on YouTube, or you can listen to this or one of many other webinars that we've done in the past through Spotify, and our podcast there is called The Talking Giraffe. So I'm super excited to welcome everyone back. We have two panelists from our last webinar, so thank you very much to them for coming back, but also some fantastic new panelists also. Welcome everybody to the Connected webinar series. This, as I say, is our second. We're looking at the potentials for NFTs. We're looking at the metaverse. What does that mean? What's happening right now? What does it mean for brands and marketing campaigns? We also looked a little bit last time at blockchain and really what's happening there. And I think you have obviously seen in the news, you've obviously seen in lots of conversations, there is a massive explosion of different types of news happening at the moment. There is a huge demand for knowledge around the metaverse. We also see a massive rise in requests for work and for projects. And so for us, it just made absolute sense to launch this second webinar. So to help us discuss this in more detail, I have the pleasure to talk with Daniel Vaczi. He is Web3 marketing expert and CMO of Galaxis.xyz and founder of Transformart.io. Transformart.io. Sorry, Dan. Richard is also rejoining us. He was on our past webinar. He is the founder of DigitalStage.io, which is a Web3 connected retail platform for music. So thank you very much for rejoining us. You gave us some interesting insights, so we'll be looking for more of that today. We've also got Christopher Lockwood. He is content strategies and fine artist and an NFT creator joining us today. And then last but not least, we've got Jay Walsh, and he is creative director for Lost at Sea, a very successful NFT community and play to earn game. So warm welcome to all of you. I'm really curious and excited to be talking today with you around new trends, new challenges, and of course tips for brands and people looking to enter Web 3.0. So again, please think about any questions that you might want to ask our panelists, because they would love to hear your opinions and your questions first. So we need to get the conversation started. If you've seen one of our webinars before, I like to get to know our panelists a little bit, and it would be great if they could share with us an interesting fact that not many people know. Dan, you're smiling a lot, so you've obviously been thinking about this.
I had to think, because last time I gave one away. I don't have many, but I thought about something funnier than last time.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what some people know this already, but I do start my day with a long bath actually. So just to in a relaxed way. So many people start rushing and just get things done. I do the opposite way, just like lean into it, just like. That's the interesting fact, and I advise everyone to try out. Just start
Dan
slowly.
likes to bath. Fantastic. Thank you, Dan. Great, interesting fact and tip. Jay, I'm going to come to you. What's your interesting tip? What did not many people know about you?
About 3 years ago, before the pandemic, I was a co-host for a beer web series called Black and Tan, and we went around to a lot of New York breweries and got drunk for free. So it's a lot of fun.
So Dan likes the bath. Jay likes to drink beer. Chris, over to you.
So you know the James Bond series, and you know Miss Moneypenny, who's the kind of secretary in the James Bond series. Well, my funny fact is that my mum was the real life Miss Moneypenny. So in the late 60s, she was the secretary to the head of MI6. So she was the real life Miss Moneypenny. There you go.
Oh, Oh, you're topping it out, Richard. What are you going to do?
Well, it's not as interesting as that. I think I forget what I shared last time. Was it how I got routinely chased by the same black bear growing up in West Virginia?
Yeah, that one I remember.
Okay. Let's see. What's interesting about me?
Change it to a polar bear. It's fine.
Yeah.
Koala bear.
I've never been anywhere cold enough. That's my fun fact. I've never been anywhere cold enough to have a polar bear.
Okay. Fantastic. It's hard second time round. No, well, thanks a lot for that. So we've got a little bit of insight to you at least. We've got to have been, talking a little bit around blockchain, metaverse, but before we really get into it, I think it's important. There's been such a lot of information around the status of crypto, blockchain, Luna, losing money, etc., etc. I'm going to ask you guys, is this the end of blockchain?
No, I mean, absolutely not. So I'll be honest with you. So like I'm in a lot of these communities, right? Because we're building on the Salo blockchain. So there's like there's this founder community. There's like this community around all the builders on the platform. And there was a lot of people who were in bad moods because it's just like, oh, this is like really bad. But if you look at blockchain as a utility and the things that it can do, like when we're talking about metaverse and things, that's not really affected by this. This whole Luna crash is more of a DeFi thing, right? It would be almost as if, it's almost like if the stock market were to go down in America or if the dollar would go down, it doesn't mean that fate go away. It's like they're two different things that just happen to all be in this Web3 space. I think what it will do is actually make people think a little bit more than just Bitcoin, right? So that's like the whole thing. It's like it's all about this investment, but there's a lot of other things that you can do with blockchain other than invest in stable coins and cryptocurrencies. So I think in terms of how we will discuss it in terms of as a way for brands to market themselves or for a way for gaming companies to engage with their users in a different way. I think that's all still to come. And I think that this is just a little blip.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else got anything to add to that? I know, Chris, you often talk about the three different agendas that maybe links with Richard.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big perspective is that these things take a very, very long time actually to come properly to life, and that we are still in the very early stages of it. There's an enormous amount going on, but I think there's a lot more to happen. If you think specifically about NFTs, that kind of the 2021 wave, in my mind is kind of over. That it's a little bubble that has burst, but does that mean this is the end? No, it hasn't even really started yet. The opportunity for all of us is still huge. And as you said about the different agendas, I think there's blockchain for brands, there's blockchain for investors, there's blockchain for creators. There's all of these different things, and agendas for different people. I think we're just at the beginning, and there's a very exciting journey ahead for us. That's my summary.
I just want to add to that. I think it is actually, I see it as a good thing for the industry we need to pop these bubbles. I don't want to live in a bubble. It's very uncertain. It moves ups and down, and you can't plan ahead. It's very volatile. It's not good for the industry. So I want these bubbles to pop as soon as possible. And what will remain, hopefully, is projects that have values and that are important for the community, not projects that have been hyped up and pushed up artificially, but projects that actually, as I said, provide value. And that's how I see. And I can just reference back the ICO, the initial coin offering phase back in the 70s. No, back in 2017 and 2018. When the whole ICO industry crashed, and out of that, what came out is the is an industry that now is more established and have practices the DeFi space essentially. So I do see this all like changing, and sometimes it's painful. I agree, but yeah, it's necessary, I think, to cleanse the space.
Cleanse the space. That's pretty interesting way to put it, but makes sense. Jay, you're doing something around NFTs, play to earn game. There's kind of more to it than just perhaps purchasing a JPEG, which I think there's been a lot around in terms of purchasing NFTs. Tell us a little bit around utility and what you're doing there.
So I'm the creative director for Lost at Sea's NFT. We're on the Solana blockchain. We sold out in 5 minutes, and our original utility, we were just going to do a play to earn game, and then we didn't underestimate, but you really have to keep your community engaged with utility because they are impatient, right? Sometimes when you're dealing with a community that's 24/7 all around the world, Shanghai, Australia, New York, California, so it's constant. So what we did with our utility is that we keep continually adding things to our utility. So we added tokenomics, we added staking, we added a store, which utility is such a strange thing. It's like, especially with NFTs, it's almost like a fad sometimes. Like staking becomes really big. Now the new utility is that I bought an NFT the other day where there was no roadmap. The roadmap is let's be artists and let's figure it out together. So I think utility is a very interesting thing that doesn't necessarily drive the sale of your NFT all the time. Art is very important, which I'm sure Christopher is happy to hear. Yeah, like OK Bears and like we have Trippin' Apes. They look at what the sales they're doing; it's pretty tremendous, and they have not hit any marks in their roadmap as of yet. But we're Lost at Sea. We're really pushing forward to make our community and our holders excited about the play to earn game. One of our main utilities that we just added is a rev share for the games. So once the game becomes profitable, our holders will be able to earn a percentage of the money that the game earns. And I think it's important. Utility will keep people engaged, but the art brings them in and the marketing brings them in. And the marketing is the most important part and the hype. And I think Twitter is just it's the most important thing in NFT sales. And I'm sure many of you guys feel the same way, but that's what I'm seeing on our end.
No, absolutely. There's a big push, and I think you'll probably all agree what you say there about the community being quite demanding. It's 24/7, it's always on. It also means that things are gonna, as anything does in innovation cycles, things need to move faster, but I think even more so because what we're talking about is, there is no shut off at the stock market at 6 o'clock. This is constant all the time, which means I think people have to keep pushing the agenda, keep pushing new things and innovation all the time, which means this is a pretty exciting place to be because there's going to be new innovation and new things coming out at a much faster rate.
I think I just want to add something to that, really. So it is really, when you launch a collection or when you launch an NFT project, it is 24/7. But I think this is why it's important that the community takes it over after a little while, when you set up everything, when you set up the infrastructure, because it's impossible to manage. And the most successful projects actually are run by the communities. And I think this is something that I really want to get across here for brands as well, when they think of it as a project that they can just run as a standard marketing or promote as a standard marketing practice. It is about community and creating communities, and you have to sort of like empower a community to run itself. Otherwise, you have to have this huge amount of people working on your project, and it just becomes a standard thing that will not have longevity, will not live long enough. So community and at every project, every successful project, there's a very engaged community that runs and also looks after its own community.
Richard, you mentioned in the last webinar about artists. So, if we talk about artists, music artists, and how they're taking advantage of NFTs to communicate with their fans, what's kind of trending activity at the moment that's happening? What do you see?
So there's the two big things that are happening is that a lot of what in the music industry are called DIY artists, the do-it-yourself artists. So these are folks who aren't signed to a record label. So if you're looking at the record labels, imagine like a record label is kind of like, it's a VC for music, right? So record labels will go out and sign 10 artists to contracts, knowing that one artist will actually take off and be Billie Eilish. And the revenue they make from that actually covers for the other 7 where the other 9 where they will lose money. So that's how they work. But then there's a lot of these DIY artists who kind of want to stay outside of this system, as you would call it. So what we're seeing is that a lot of artists are using Web3 as a way to actually fundraise for production of their art. So if you're a band and you want to make a new album, you can do things like working with a company like Royal.io in LA or Opulus in London, where you can actually sell future royalties to your songs to the fans. So the fans are actually going to support you up front to buy into your song. So this is a way that they're really working together, and it helps the artists get off the ground. You have others where the artists are selling in what they call edition. And so instead of releasing their track on Spotify or Apple Music or even on the radio, they will just, for their small audience of 50 or 100 people, they will release that song as a limited edition, NFT only artwork, and then just sell to those 50 or 100 people. So you have what in music right now, you have these NFT only artists, very niche. Of course, the guys at the record labels just like joke about it because it's like, who makes music for 50 people only, right? It's very niche. And I personally don't think it's something that you can replicate, because how often can somebody give you you're not going to get your fans to give you $500 every time you release a new song. So it's a way to start. When you read things about music and what's happening with NFTs, like with Snoop Dogg, for example, where he made millions, it's because Snoop Dogg's not a real artist. He's a brand. He's like a living, walking, talking meme to himself. So most of the people who are buying that are not like actually into it for the music. They're just wanting to be a part of this, whatever that is. So that's what we're seeing a lot of. What we're doing actually is a little bit different, because with Web3, one of the things we think will happen is anything that has value, no matter what it is, will need to be on the blockchain at some point. So what we're doing is actually working with the artists to create NFTs as a utility to validate all of the products that they're selling, whether it's vinyl records or t-shirts or things like this, because most musicians today have had to take a merch first approach, because if you look at just how much they make, so if I'm a band and I sell one t-shirt, that one t-shirt I sold makes me as much money as 5,000 streams on Spotify. So that's why Web3 is really important to artists. So for fundraising and also just monetization. And then because it's Web3 and everything is transparent, you can then create communities around who's actually spending money with you.
So there's a lot there around being able to really support real art. I mean, actually being able to support artists, actually being able to support the creators. So yes, there's this whole thing around Snoop or whatever brand you want to put wherever, right? Yeah. That will always, Nike or wherever. This is just a new platform, I think. But I think what's interesting is talking about artists and being able to really kind of celebrate the creators as well, which is what Digital Stage seems to be doing, right?
Exactly right. So we founded the company actually as a Web2 company during lockdown. So it's one of my really good friends, because I'm from Washington D.C. One of my really good friends was working at the Kennedy Center in Washington D.C., which is the National Opera House basically. And the U.S. is a little bit different to Germany or France. Whereas if you're in the orchestra at the Kennedy Center, you're not a public employee. So the Kennedy Center during COVID went and got like a $23 or $25 million bailout from the U.S. Congress. And then the next day they fired the entire orchestra. So it's like, what do we want these people to do? Do you want like these classically trained musicians who are really keeping our culture going, our music culture going, to just like have to go get a job selling insurance. Like, that's not really going to help us as a community. So that's why we created Digital Stage as a place for artists to be able to fund themselves, and not to have to do it where, if you look at social media for a musician, they're toiling away to create content, and the person who's actually making money from that content is Mark Zuckerberg selling the ads against the content they're creating. So that's why we created this. And then, we now see the power of Web3 to really harness all of that for the artists in pretty much any way you can imagine. And it's still like, there's still things that will be coming up new. So that's.
Can I add into that? I mean, yeah. We started off by talking about how these forms of technological development often happen in waves, and we've gone through one bubble maybe. To me, when we talk about how the marketing and the hype is so important, and when we talk about how easy it is for someone like Snoop Dogg to make a load of money, what we're doing is we're showing that we're still in the kind of the emphasis still on this being a commodity trading environment. So it just like, how can someone put $1 in and make $1,000 out? And that's so far from kind of helping young creatives, different forms of creatives, to be able to make money themselves. And I do believe that we will get to that place. The fact that NFTs are based really on these kind of smart contracts, which allows any form of creative to not only make a little bit of money for their kind of hard work, but also to make money every single time that is sold and sold and sold and sold, which is the music industry has had that kind of royalty model for a very long time, but the art market doesn't. And I think there are artists and there are creatives all over the world that once people get used to buying their art in NFT format, it will unlock this long-term royalty, which really makes it really exciting. We are so not there yet, but I really believe that we will get there.
And now, if we're talking about art, the cool thing about if you're an artist, right? Typically, once you sell your painting, right, you're giving 100% of the value to the buyer, right? But with an NFT, you as the artist can maintain some of that value for yourself because you're the creator. So that's like the power of this is, I don't have to just give away the value, the 100% of the value when I sell my painting, for example.
And what's going wrong in the marketplace from a creator point of view at the moment is there's only about 2 or 3% of all creators that are being seen and going anywhere. Because if they don't, again, there's one, when we're talking about hype, we really mean hype. You can create some great work, you can understand how to put it on a variety of platforms, but if you don't have the weight of hype, if you don't have a full community gassing about you, your great creative is not really being yet seen.
I hear you. I think I truly think that this is not going to change. Honestly, this new technology is not designed to solve the problem of connecting, people, or, well, that you had Facebook for that, that's what they wanted to do, to connect people globally. The challenge will still stay there, despite this new technology. And correct me if you say otherwise, but I think you still need publicity. You still need to be on people's screen, in people's ears. You have to create community. I think what you have to do separately or differently, and brands what have to do differently, is to create that thriving community that helps you to amplify your voice. So you don't actually spend a lot of time on paid ads, but that's the foundation to it. You have to be out there, and people have to talk about you.
And you need to think about too, is that's the problem with art, the history of art, right? There could be a guy painting in his garage or it's like his basement, and no one knows who he is or who they are because they're not promoting it or showing it. And then someone finds it 100 years after they're died, and they're like, this is the greatest art I've ever seen. So there's probably artists that are going to be on the blockchain that have no followers, but and their paintings are selling for 0.0001 ETH. And then 20 years from now, they're going to be worth 10 ETH because the art's great, and eventually someone's going to find them. or they're going to get lost in the blockchain, just kind of like all art history. You know, you gotta be able to promote these great artists, and blockchain is going to be a great way to really help them out, to get them out there. But you need the publicity, you need the marketing. It's very important, I think.
Well, when you say marketing, so it's like I'm not trying to come across as like an art historian or anything, and I might get part of the story wrong, but I once read where Picasso was made because an art dealer in London was putting on a show, and he just decided to put this unknown artist named Picasso on the wall next to Monet and the rest, right? So then when people walked in the room, they're like, oh, if this guy I've never heard of is being shown next to all of these greats, then he must be great too.
Of course.
And so it's, you know, it's kind of like being a market maker in a way.
Yeah. Kingmaker.
Yeah.
I think as well, what's interesting is that you can't just expect that a new technology will change or bring a community to you. I think that the main thing around NFTs is around being part of something. If we look at the Bored Apes, you want to be part of what they're selling as a concept, as a storyline. I don't think you necessarily think, oh, this is the most amazing art piece I'm going to put on my wall, print out and put on my wall in my house, right? So it's about the community that comes with that. So it's being part of that, and brands is about that, right? Brands are about being part of a community. You're going to be showing your Nike tick on your t-shirt or on your trainers or whatever, because you're saying I'm part of this group, I'm with what they stand for and whatever it is as well. So just moving to the blockchain and having an NFT is not going to change and bring you thousands of people. It's got to be that marketing piece that comes with it as well, right? And build the brand and build work on bringing that audience to you, rather than just kind of putting something out there and going, well, now I've got an NFT as well.
Yeah, correct. Well, I want to just add something to the Bored Ape and some of the most successful projects. So they were helped by other forces as well. So not just marketing, not just publicity, but there were so-called alpha groups or whales coming in and pumping up the price, pumping up the floor price, and that actually caught the attention of the masses. So there are other aspects of that as well, which we don't want to go into, but they were helped by other things as well.
First question in from the audience, from Jan. Thank you very much, Jan. What do you see to be a profitable model in 5 years' time in Web 3.0?
In what's going to be, sorry, a
profitable model. Yeah, I'm throwing this straight to you, Dan. What is a profitable model in Web 3.0 that you can see in 5 years' time?
Well, this is a very interesting question. You know, I think if you operate a mine that you can actually project over 5 years, but with this technology that literally just being launched, I think we are now exploring the possibilities. You know, so it would be hard and it would be silly to actually project 5 years ahead. You know, even within social media when it launched, or the Web 2, you know, no one imagined what it could possibly do for us and how it could change our society. So to project 5 years ahead, I'm maybe the other panelists can jump into that, but I don't want to go down that far ahead. But maybe in a year time or a year and a half time, I can really see companies and artists and creators coming in and experimenting with this, and there will be a lot of failures, but that's all part of the game, I think. I think creating different types of and kind of connections with brands is something that the Web3 space can really help leverage, really.
One of the things we've been talking about with the future of Web3, right? So it's like the early adopters were investors, right? So that's why we saw all this stuff with decentralized finance. And then we have NFTs, which a lot of people still look at NFTs as like a financial instrument, as something like you can invest in. But I honestly think it's gaming. And so Jay, you can chime in on this. A lot of the folks I'm talking to, they're really big on Web3 play to earn gaming. And you know, we've already kind of had gaming, and you would have like Fortnite, right? They consider themselves metaverse, right? Even though they didn't call themselves metaverse, they were. So it's like we kind of already have had this metaverse type experience with gaming, and it's like, you know, that's the thing I think will continue more, especially with, you know, but then the question is going to be like, you know, right now people spend a lot of money on games, but that money's locked into that particular game. And so does pay to do these play to earn games. Can I just like cash out of Rise of Kingdoms and then go play like Clash of Clans? Like, you know, there's these types of things that will need to be sorted, but I think gaming is going to be the big one. And to be honest, like, you know, in this Web3 space, I'm kind of the old guy. And so when I'm going to these NFT events here in Berlin, I'm the oldest guy. And most of the people that I'm meeting there are gamers, right? So if I'm talking to them about, oh yeah, we work with Kings of Leon, they're like, who's that? And it's like, okay, well, maybe you're too young. Do you know who Martin Garrix is? They're like, no, sorry, you know, music's not my thing. So a lot of the people who are currently in the space, it's like, music's not their thing. So I think it's going to be gaming.
I think, you know, you quite rightly point out the gaming industry. At the moment, games are really the only kind of entire virtual universes we have. I imagine, and I hope that very soon there are going to be all sorts of virtual worlds that aren't actually necessarily game led. There'll be other forms of virtual experiences, and the economy inside those, the things maybe you can pay to watch a film, to interact with some art exhibitions. You know, I think there will be other forms of non-gaming, but the only tangible example we really have right now are games. But I think there will be non-game. You know, 5 years is a long time. I hope that in 5 years' time, someone somewhere will have begun to play with this kind of meta experience and make it a lot better. We were talking the other day between us about how, you know, all the people that have gone and generated kind of meta store environments have made them look like real world shops. It's like, that's bullshit, pardon my language. You know, you don't have to have a glass window and rails with like hangers on them and clothes on them. This is the metaverse. It can be an amazing experience. So I hope that within 5 years, we will see all sorts of people get really creative with that. I certainly would love to get involved with that, you know, reimagining these experiences. And I think sooner or later, when more and more people begin to be comfortable, you know, in those environments, there'll be an enormous amount of money to be made in that, you know.
Yeah, I think, you know, 5 years is definitely a long time. I was just going to go to you, Jay, to talk about the game side of things, because it would be great to see lots of new things happening. But at the moment, game is definitely trending. I think Richard talked about something really interesting there about being able to hold on to your investment perhaps in the games. Talk to us, Jay.
Yeah, so play to earn games and esport, like esport, let's look at esports right now. There's people making so much money on these just playing video games and streaming on their Twitch. So play to earn games is, you know, where I don't know if everyone knows what it is, but it's like it's a video game where people play for crypto tokens, and there's some type of investment usually into an NFT, and they bring money in. I think it's so we're developing this boat racing game where it's kind of like Mario Kart, but they're like drunken sailors and they get to throw bottles at each other. And we're super lucky. We're working with Jen, the Appetite team, and we're developing. It's looking really awesome. What we're doing is that users are going to be able to wage crypto on the races. So you could be racing someone in Budapest or something like that for half a sol, and you're playing Mario Kart. So now this is a skill game where you're pretty much betting tokens, and then you're cashing out. You know, it's really by owning an NFT, there's certain things that you get, like you're going to be able to unlock certain skins or levels. But play to earn I think is the future of all this. I think there's too much money in video. There's too much money in video games, and like Chris was saying, creating these meta type experiences where people are going to be able to be in these worlds where they're betting or earning crypto. My kids, all they watch is YouTube and they want to play video games. Think about 20 years from now, I hope they're not doing that all the time, but I can put my son on a video game and he could be earning $70 a day. I mean, like, I don't want to start like a farm here where I'm like 30 kids in the neighborhood. Like they're all going to be earning 10% for me. Everyone's earning money for me. All the kids in the neighborhood are playing the boat racing game. But
I should have had more children.
I know. I only got 2. I'm going to start pumping them out. But it's a very interesting space. I think play to earn video games are one of the tightest I'm trying to think of the word for it, are the best, have the best outlook for the future. I think music does as well. I think artists, I think some of these NFTs can put major record labels out of business one day. I think play to earn is going to be a big future. And if Jan, was there the question from Jan, if anybody's telling you that they know what the future is going to be in this space, don't listen to them. They have no idea what they're talking about, because if you're in Discords or you're looking at the news, this is changing by the second. There's a new thing trending every single day. I think there's going to be a lot of experimentation in the next 6 months to 18 months, and people are going to really try to figure out what's going on. But then it's always going to be changing all the time. There's going to be these the developers, especially, they're going to become artists as well, because they're going to be able to develop these unbelievable programs and worlds that normal people can't develop. So the next great artist might be a web developer, who's creating something that's beautiful and unbelievable. Like Chris said, I want to go have a coffee on a volcano somewhere. That's an experience that the meta should do. But we'll see how that all turns out. But like, we'll go back to our game, but the Lost at Sea game is, we're working with Appetite. It's coming out hopefully Q4. We're going to get our toes in the water with the game and see how people like it. We have to get our the users up, but and figure out the gambling aspect of it with play to earn and the ways around that. But the future is bright, and I think the gaming is definitely going to be really, really fun and cool, and see how people are going to make money on it. I think people could have careers. You could have a full career where you're doing play to earn games, and people are doing it right now already. So
there's certainly a way to really change, and I think that's happening across the world anyway. If you look at influencers, if you look at, it's not just kids playing video games, but it's actually it's kids watching other people play video games, which is kind of insane to me. I think what Richard, you were saying about, releasing music to only 50 people, for example, that's massive change on the way that things can happen. So there's a lot of change, and I think a lot of new opportunities to be able to make money, to create new ways of earning a living. What about brands, though? One of the questions that we've got from the audience, Anonymous, do you believe that all brands will want to own their NFTs? And if so, what would be their common use case? What would be their utility for these NFTs?
I can give you an example of a case that we're working on with a wine company right now. So this wine company, they have like a limited release every year. And one of the things that they want to do is actually attach an NFT to the wine, and people, and when I'm talking to somebody like, why would I want to have an NFT with my wine? So when you claim this NFT that comes attached to the neck of your wine bottle, it actually unlocks some benefits for you with the wine brand. So since it's a limited release of 1,000, they typically only let you buy 2. But if you claim their NFT, then you can potentially buy 4 next year. You would get early access to pre-order before it's open to the public, things like this. So they're giving special benefits to their NFT holder. Another thing is just creating an engagement with the audience or with your customers. So we've had like grocery store brands come to us and say, oh, hey, we want to do an NFT. Can you help us figure it out? So, Jenny, when we were working together at Shazam and we were coming up with all these AR and VR gaming experiences, it was a way to create a interaction between the brand and their
audience,
customer.
consumer.
And so those were just like hello handshakes, like, okay, you know, we did the, remember when we did the game for the sausage brand here in Germany, Curry King?
Curry King.
So it was like, you know, so that was a game, you would play it, and it was like connected, it was connected to the packaging. But then, you know, once I no longer had the packaging, I couldn't play the game anymore. But if that game was connected to an NFT somehow, then, you know, I kind of would own that experience. And it's now, as the brand, I'm sticky with that customer because there's something from that they have kept. So I think that's where this is really coming through, is to create engagements. And also, you know, we see brands where they're, you know, trying to create collections. So the customer will have to buy multiples of a specific item to collect all of the NFTs, etc.
Do you think brands should be investing in real world virtual reality content, like virtual university tours or fake 3D worlds? Do you think there's anything in that apart from the NFT space? That's also an anonymous question.
Does anybody else want to jump in that? Because I have some.
I actually want to go back just one step and just add to Richard's. I think this is almost like on a Web3 space. It's a level 1 what brands can do, you know, because to me that is a loyalty card. What you described, you know, so that actually can do all that. But I think when things start getting connected and other brands are doing, and you can earn tokens on the back of it, and these programs get interconnected, then that's when sort of like level 2. And I don't know level 3, 4, 5, but I think interconnectivity and how you create an ecosystem, which you can do on the back of Web3 technologies. That's when I think brands can take full advantage of it. But just launching an NFT, because brands came to me as well and asked, okay, what can we do? And I think sometimes I feel like they're forcing this technology onto themselves. You know, they are trying to use it because just for the sake of innovation. And I'm okay with innovation, and I know you have to try and you have to fail, but I think the value, ultimately what you give back to your customers, your audience, the community, have to have a strong value proposition. So that's what I would start first. You know, what is real value? What's this technology is really solving that other technology can't?
So 2 points. One is, we saw this a lot at Shazam when we launched augmented reality. We had brands calling us up and they just wanted to have that augmented reality checklist done, and they didn't really care what, as long as it fit in their budget. The second thing is, have you read what Starbucks are planning? They call it the third place. So they're creating their own metaverse and they're calling it the third place. So it's like, it's that third place between being at home and being at work.
Okay.
And
in the car.
The article I've read didn't really say much beyond that, but they're basically trying to create their own Web3 community, right? They're just trying to build their own community.
Okay, yeah, well, that's a good one, because they are actually now pushing something, they're creating something new, you know, and I'm looking forward to that. But we might end up with multiple metaverses and galaxies. But yeah, it's interesting.
Julius is asking a question which I think fits here quite well, which is, how can brands actually measure their effectiveness or their performance? What are the types of KPIs that they should be looking at in the metaverse?
That's actually an interesting one, because I've talked to a couple of people recently, and here in Germany, there's a couple of companies that are actually selling out-of-home billboards in Decentraland, which is one of the big metaverses. So they've bought land in the metaverse, they have constructed an out-of-home billboard, and they're letting brands basically advertise on that billboard. And then when I'm asking these guys, like, well, what kind of KPI metrics are you giving the brands? They're like, none. I'm like, how many people actually see this? They're like, we don't know. It's like, how much does the brand pay? 40 grand. I'm like, you don't even know if like 5 people saw it. They're like, no. So it's like, you know, so it's kind of actually still too new in these types of ways. It's like people are doing it. It's like, you know, if you think back to like 1995, when there were the first ads on the internet, right? That's when people started saying, oh, I can track clicks. But what they didn't know was like the first ad had like a click rate of like 99%, because people are like, oh, I can click on this thing. So it was like, had really high engagement because it was new, but it also gave us this idea of having KPIs. So I would actually just look at like, personally from a marketer's perspective, I would just look at like, what's the engagement rate? And then figuring every brand is different. Every campaign is different in terms of what you're looking at. So it's very difficult to say, but Daniel, you might have something else.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. The blockchain analytics is a very, very new field, and it is just being explored. And if you Google it, you won't find many companies actually who's doing that. There are many companies who trying to give you the infrastructure which you can build analytics packages on. But I am actually working on one of these, and it is a nightmare currently working with that, because they are not very sophisticated, and the APIs are just not as great in packages. Anyway, so yeah, as Richard said, I completely agree. We have to write the rules, and the marketers will have to set up standards and best practices when it comes to measuring Web3 KPIs. So
I think it still comes back also, though, Richard, to what you were saying. When we have people just phoning us saying, "Oh, we want to do AR." Okay, I think it's also about coming back to what the objective is, because if the objective is around awareness, education, then you want to be looking at your maximum. So how many people saw it? What was the engagement rate? What went up? If actually it's around selling something, well, then of course, is it around selling the NFT? Is it how many people we've got there? Is it about building a community that is in the metaverse? So how many people we've got there? So I think there are a lot of metrics that you can pull together. But I think again, it's about understanding what the objective is of why you were going to do the thing that you're doing anyway.
Of course, yeah. Well, I think Richard and I skip that part because, of course, we assume. I think what we focused on within the blockchain space, within for example, Decentraland or Sandbox. How do you measure things, and what makes sense? But absolutely, outside of that, that what sort of sentiment it gives to your brand. Maybe it's a positive sentiment. Oh, this is an innovative brand. They are doing something cool in the Web3. So how do you measure that? And that might result in sales and positive feelings towards a brand. But yeah, of course, at the end of the day, you want to build your community, you want to increase your sales, you can measure these, but we were specifically talking about what can you measure within the metaverse.
Thank you. Jay, Tom is looking to ask a question, and there's a couple of different questions that come in around this as well, but he says, hello, Jay, are NFTs completely protected? Also, in case you buy one on the secondary market, how do you know it's 100% genuine and not counterfeit?
So I would just make sure that you're purchasing them from trusted websites, and I would stay away from, unless you're doing that, if it's on Discord, I would stay away from DMing. The DMs are I'm not my favorite way to trade. I would just kind of stick with like Magic Eden or OpenSeas, but OpenSea sometimes allows counterfeit things, so you got to really strike them. They allow counterfeit collections sometimes, so you got to strike them down. So but Magic Eden, like that's a hard thing to, you can't really I would say that you should be just purchasing from trusted websites. That's my opinion. I wouldn't be getting them through DMs or side deals unless you really know the person, etc. That's kind of how I would trade NFTs.
And you have to do background research, whether the seller is the artist, is a real artist. You have to do the background search. I mean, OpenSea is actually ramping up their efforts into actually verifying who the publisher is, who the creator is. So yeah.
I was actually having a conversation with one of the record labels last week, and they told me that they did an NFT drop for Black Sabbath, so Ozzy Osbourne.
Mm-hmm.
And what a lot of these artists are doing now is they want to actually sell they get someone to create a white label NFT marketplace for them, so they can sell them within their own branded environment.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens is someone will be able to basically copy their page with just like, one little thing different in the URL. So instead of like Ozzy NFT drop, it's Ozzy -NFT drop. They buy a bunch of They'll buy all the keywords, the Google keywords. So when someone goes and searches for it, it's the top one. So you click on it, you think you're buying the Aussie NFT, and when you connect your wallet, it drains your wallet. And one of the guys at the record label who's in charge of digital actually had that happen to him.
But
Wow.
I work with brands who actually have their website completely so like replicated and the URL as well, and the hackers were actually paying for Google Ads. And you got onto the website, you bought the brand, and they even delivered it to you, but it was a fake one. And I worked with that brand back in London. So, and it was from what, in 2010. So this is nothing new, you know. I mean, this has always been there. Hopefully it will be tackled.
And you got to be careful about it, because this is a $1 million business, this hacking and scamming. We literally send out messages, especially during our mints, all the time, that, you know, do not accept DMs from anybody. If you haven't been robbed buying NFTs, you're not a real NFT buyer. That's what we say. Like, you got to get robbed at least once to really be. Yes, it happened to me as well. My first time, I was buying this thing, and they send you a link, and it's like, oh, the pre-sale started 10 minutes early. You are whitelisted. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm whitelisted. This is great. I start clicking, and all of a sudden I lost $400. You know, it's like, so you got. I would be careful. That's why the wallets are very important when you're purchasing NFTs. Don't keep all your money in there. Be able to have a main wallet, or the ledger, and you should transfer the money you want to purchase with that day. So say I'm going to be like, okay, there's NFTs they're selling for 3 SOL. I want to get 12 of them, not 12 of them, maybe 3. Okay, so I'm going to have 12 SOL in my wallet to enough to buy them, and make sure that you're being safe. That's don't accept DMs from anybody, and be very careful on clicking links. Like I said, it's like $1 million business. People scamming people. We did on one of our we did a 3D launch a couple of months ago, and 1 minute before we were about to send our launch link, we had somebody that we were using as a moderator who was like 13 years old. He sent out a link, and he drained 40 SOL from people. We had to repay it. So, and then he disappears, and we were mentoring him and doing the right thing. And he's 13. You know, it could have been a really lucrative business for him down the line, but he got 40 SOL out of it. So it's kind of really sad sometimes. But you just got to be careful. Just be careful. Don't accept DMs, and only listen to announcements. Truly, that's my opinion on it. Just be very careful.
So Jenny, I think this all leads into the question of like mass adoption, right? So we just told like a bunch of horror stories where if somebody who is listening and is a non-crypto native, they're like, wow, this sounds like the Wild West. No way.
Yeah.
You know, so that's you know, and we see this like with what we're working on with our product is something that can have mass adoption. So one of the things, like, you know, so we started as a Web2 company. One of the things that we saw was like for our concerts, right? So we're working with a rock band like Måneskin or Kings of Leon. The audience is going to be primarily women. Like every time we had a rock band that wasn't like heavy metal, it was a predominantly female audience. And what we would notice is that the people who are buying merch in these events are female fan members. And, you know, when we're looking at the crypto space, it's predominantly male. And, you know, if I go to an NFT event here in Berlin, out of 50 people, there might be 3 women. So it's like, you know, it's like, how can we make this more accessible to people? Because I'll be honest, it does sound really scary. So we've created an experience where the fan doesn't actually have to use cryptocurrency to get the NFT. And so that's a way to kind of like slowly bring the fan into this concept of NFTs without them having to, you know, when Kings of Leon did what they considered the first music NFT drop, and they had to have a 2.5-minute YouTube video to explain to their fans how to get the NFT. You've got to get a MetaMask wallet, you got to go to Coinbase and add funds to it, and then you have to come back to this website, go to OpenSea and then buy it, and then come back to this other website to like claim it, right? So it's not a simple user experience. So I think that's the one thing that is really going to drive adoption of these things, is if you as a brand or anyone has like a really simple user experience.
Yeah, an interface that really kind of supports people not having to do the nitty gritty, perhaps you might want to say, so that they can just find a really two-step process. Okay. You know, it's the same really with PayPal, for example. PayPal is just enabling you to very quickly purchase something without having to go find your credit card, without having to go work out your address details and all that kind of stuff. So I think that makes good sense.
I agree. Payment system is the financial infrastructure behind it is super important. And I think recently I heard the news that MetaMask, which is a crypto wallet, a very popular crypto wallet, is being integrated into Apple Pay. Now that is going to be a game changer, you know, because we know that mobile payments are extremely important for this whole ecosystem. And just getting the barrier off. If I want to buy an NFT now and I don't have crypto, I have to go through a crypto exchange. I have to open an account, I have to do the KYC process, and it takes me a week and a half until I can get a nice music NFT from Richard. So that's a too long conversion path really for just anyone really. So that once that comes down, it will definitely encourage the mass adoption.
And it, you know, it seems like an obvious thing to say, but it, you know, it is still an unregulated space, which is why it's so appealing to fraud. It's inevitable that quietly there will be the beginnings of a regulatory framework, and it will become harder and harder for that fraud to take place. It is the Wild West right now. You know, we all know that, and that's why it's so exciting. Yeah, and it's why it's so appealing to a load of people. But quietly, it will have to fall in line a little bit more, so that more people feel confident that what they're getting isn't always, you know, like Jay said, the idea that, you know, you're not really an NFT buyer unless you've been kind of swizzled out of some money. That's sad. That has to be eradicated soon, you know.
No, yeah, especially with the art. Oh, sorry. Especially with the art side, Chris. Like I could just go and take a screenshot of a Bored Ape and post it to OpenSea, and then all of a sudden someone sent me 100 ETH, and it's like, you know, because they're new to the space and they got swindled. And it's also with the artists too, especially with copywriting, like and the image stealing image, like way people are stealing. Because I look at NFTs like baseball cards, right? That's what we were explaining, and then it's very simple to steal old cultural things. Like I see people make NFTs and they'll throw in something like a Thundercats type thing, and they're just kind of ripping off the original artist, and they're not, that original artist isn't seeing a dime of any of that money. So I could steal pop culture. I could take anything I want right now in NFTs. I could take Justin Bieber and I could put him on an NFT, and there's really not much you could do to it about it at the moment. Maybe Justin Bieber can, but like if I was to go back and steal like a cartoon character, like say He-Man, and throw him on there, I think, you know, I could still make money on that. And it would take a long time for them to come find me, and I'd get in trouble for doing such a thing. So it's like it's a scammer's area right now. And once it gets regulated, I think it's going to be an unbelievable, great space and creative flow. So one day.
But I don't think it's any different if you think about the physical world either, right? So, you know, you can go and buy a Gucci bag in a Chinese store for a tenner. It might not last you very long, and you know, but if you really wanted to make sure you were buying the right one, you'd go to a reputable place, you would check it out before you give your money. You wouldn't just give your whole wallet to the person behind the counter, right? So I think as well, I think what happens is, and it's the same when people go on holiday, right? They're out of their normal zone, and so they become more susceptible to pickpockets and crime in that sense. Yes, this is a new place. This is a little bit where you don't know everything, and so you might not be as careful as normal. And I think you just have to kind of take those logical things that you do in the physical world into the virtual world as well. Check out who you're buying it from, all of those different types of things as well. But yes, of course, it'll be much better when it does become a little bit more regulated, in the sense that people won't be able to do those things.
I think, just to add to that really quickly, I know we're running out of time, we could talk for hours here, but I think it will be a fairly easy solution to actually validate whether these are real NFTs from the real creators. the Galaxis cars, or if you look at the Ether cars there, this is the most famous collection that they pushed out. You have utilities on the actual NFT. You can click on it, even if it's on OpenSea or any other platform. It's not just on their website, and you can interact with the card. So it takes no effort to actually put a button on there, which says validate, and you can actually see whether the NFT is valid. So these new technologies, and when we talk about utilities, these are the things that actually going to uplift this whole industry and get rid of the crap and the NFTs that provide no value and just trying to scam people.
No, absolutely. Interestingly, it kind of touches on what we're doing at the moment with physical products. So, we've got QR codes on physical product to be able to authenticate whether that carton of milk is actually the carton of milk, or that bottle of wine is actually the bottle of wine from the actual producer. So it makes sense that, that will then be something that follows into the metaverse and into the Web 3.0 world as well. We've run out of time, guys. It's been fantastic having you. Again, so many questions, so little time. Thanks a lot to the audience. Thank you so much for all the fantastic questions. We'll also send a link with the follow-up webinar, but also a link where you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter, where we review NFTs and Metaverse's top news in hopefully what we think is short and simple words. You can feel free to email me, Jenny@appetitecreative.com. If you want to be in contact with any of the panelists, or if you want to give some feedback from the webinar, let me know. Maybe you've got some ideas about the next webinar or what should we be doing there. Our next event is actually in July, the morning of the 7th and the 8th of July, which is looking at connected packaging, which is gamification, authentication, looking at the physical world. So if that's interesting to you, check it out. But for now, that's all. Thank you so much to Jay. Thank you so much to Christopher, to Richard, to Dan. Thanks a lot. There's Lost at Sea. Go check it out. Speak to you later. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Bye. Thanks, guys. Bye.